Let's talk about Southampton. Obviously, Crook, you were there yesterday. Lost to Nottingham Forest, and you kind of said at the time it was a must-win game for both because of their perilous positions in the Premier League. Southampton getting nothing out of the game. Nathan Jones, and I say Nathan Jones, the club being booed off at half-time, booed off at full-time. We are going to hear from James Ward-Prowse in a minute, but what did you make overall, the atmosphere there and the performance that the Saints players put in?
Well, the atmosphere was toxic, as we predicted it might be if things start to go badly for Southampton. But I can understand the fans' frustration. I mean, first and foremost, there were a lot of empty seats, even before kick-off, and that will alarm the owners because I think tickets were fairly reasonably priced, and that just tells you that the Southampton fan base have had enough. You mentioned to me before we came on air that their form in 2022 seems to rank 90th of 92 clubs in the top four tiers in English football. So the rot's been set in for a while. I think those fans who were hounding out Ralph Hasenhüttl because they believed that he would take them down might be having second thoughts this morning. I don't think Southampton could possibly have been as bad as they were last night had Ralph Hasenhüttl still been in charge. Whatever you think of him, he had a plan, he had a style of play. Yes, it didn't always bring positive results, but I think he would have stood much more of a chance of keeping them up than Nathan Jones. I feel sorry for Nathan Jones because the fans have given up on him already. I struggle to see how the new owners of the Sport Republic, planning for Hasenhüttl's departure, have stumbled upon a manager with no Premier League experience, whose only job away from Luton ended fairly dismally at Stoke. And you look at the style of play last night, three at the back for most of the game, even after they went 1-0 down, against a Nottingham Forest side who'd scored one goal away from home all season. The tactics just seemed to be to lump it forward quickly. So many of those long balls just went into the arms of Dean Henderson. It was a really difficult watch. They didn't have a single shot on target. It was a terrible, gutless performance. And I don't see how Nathan Jones turns this around. And you've asked the question, is 4 matches too early to admit you've made the wrong appointment? Probably it is. But I'm not sure it is in this case. I think Sport Republic and Rasmus Ankersen, the sporting director who has been behind their transfer policy since the new owners came in, he's been behind this appointment. I think he needs to hold his hands up and say, I've made a mistake here, and get someone in to give them a fighting chance, because at the moment they are sinking like a stone and you cannot see where their next point, let alone their next win, is coming from. And I do think Rasmus Ankersen has to take a lot of responsibility. The policy in the summer was to sign young players that you could then sell on for a decent profit. That's great, but this is a big boys league. You need experience. Young players are going to make mistakes, and there isn't enough experience, there's not enough character, and there's not enough leaders in this Southampton team. And I feel really sorry for the people who've been there a long time when the old owners weren't willing to invest, and probably they've defied the odds by keeping the club in the Premier League, by stabilising them. Ralph Hasenhüttl probably overachieved with the finances that he had, and all that good work is being wrecked.
You mentioned leaders there, Hal. Just before I get your reaction, let's hear from one of their leaders. You spoke to Southampton captain James Ward-Prowse after the game. This is what he had to say.
I think we deserved the defeat. We weren't good in all aspects of our game tonight. A real disappointing low point for us. And I think when you're gifting goals away like that in the Premier League, you're going to get punished. You can't do that at any level, but especially in the Premier League, no matter what team you play against, you're going to get punished.
Not a single shot on target against a Forest side without an away win this season. That must be the most disappointing element.
Yeah, I think there's many disappointing elements at the moment, but it's a difficult place in the change room at the moment. But we're all aware of the situation where we're at, and it's all about making sure we turn it around ourselves and give ourselves a good chance to get out of it.
What did you make of the reaction of the fans? Lots of boos at half time, and at full time there were 1 or 2 chants aimed at the manager as well.
Yeah, I mean. You try and not listen to all of that because you focus on the job, but we understand and accept the frustrations. We've all been fans ourselves, and we know that things can get tough, but the squad's a lot different to previous years gone by. There's been a real big change within that, and it's going to take time for that to gel, time for everybody to get that experience of competing and playing in the Premier League, and Forest showed that tonight, and that's something that we can learn from.
Are you confident that you can turn this around and stay in the Premier League? Still a lot of games to play.
Yeah, still a lot of football to be played, and there's a big job on our hands, but looking around the change room you can see the disappointment and the hurt, and I think we need to use that to propel ourselves back up the league. And
just finally, how much are you hurting personally as captain, someone who's been here through good times and bad times? How much are you hurting tonight?
Yeah, it's hard, but that's part of the job. I think it shows that you care when you come off the pitch and you think about the performance and the way the game went and where we are. It's hard to accept, but as captain, it's up to me to try and galvanise everybody, stay positive and look forward. All aspects of our game need to be better, and we touched on doing the basics well, and we failed to do that all season really, and especially tonight.
As good as he is, it's going to be difficult for him to galvanise that team because, again, you look at the players around and everyone's kind of got their heads down. He's been the only bright light, really, for Southampton so far this season. We asked the question.
He's not played particularly well,
He hasn't. But when you look at goal opportunities and someone that's going to nick you a goal, whether it be from a free kick, dead ball situation, he's the only one in that squad, isn't he? We asked the question, is it too early for Nathan Jones to be sort of shown the exit door 4 games in? Look, it wasn't great under Hasenhüttl, if I'm honest with you, but it wasn't this bad. Do you think they need to make a change? 18 games in, they've still got time. They've not been cut adrift. That's the one thing you will say about them. Do you think they need to make a change?
Yeah, I think this discussion and this question for me is pretty ridiculous because it's like the owners have to have more accountability in the very first instance. And it's like, they obviously got rid of the former manager to bring in Nathan Jones, who doesn't have any Premier League experience, relatively young, and the players that he has managed up until this point are going to be different players than going into a Premier League club who have been in the Premier League for a period of time. So from a perspective of accountability, the owners making that decision to bring him in and then at this stage of the season beginning to have to think about it, because they will be thinking about it. Like we said there, when the fans don't turn up, it begins to become a serious issue.
Yeah, when it hurts your pocket like
correct.
that. Yeah.
And so it's like, but this whole culture of managers literally coming and going, for me, in football needs to change, because the instability that it creates, not only at the top level, but all the way down through the footballing pyramid is significant. And it needs to change in terms of, if you're going to bring a manager into a club, bring him in on a long-term contract and hold yourself accountable that we've made this decision to get rid of a former manager who, as we said before, had potentially overachieved, but now the ambitions of the club have changed and shifted. You see it every year. And now all of a sudden they get rid of this manager, bring in another one who cannot deliver in terms of what the previous manager was doing, and then it then becomes.
But isn't it
a free
okay for an owner? And again, you're right. I mean, the owners do deserve some stick here as well. But isn't it okay for them to say, we made a mistake? Like, we got this one wrong. We've made a mistake. Yeah. We looked at a manager, a progressive manager. Is clearly maybe not up for it right now. Not up to it. Could be in the future.
But my point, Addy, is in the first instance, if there's true accountability, i.e., a manager comes in and they have to stick with that manager, they're gonna make less mistakes, because they're gonna take that decision a lot more seriously in terms of, okay, this manager is for the long term. We have to commit to this. And this is me talking about not only football, I'm talking about football from an infrastructural perspective. So not only just, owners, etc. There has to be a change in the flippancy in which owners can make decisions on managerial changes.
There's a fine line, though, isn't there? Because I totally understand what you're saying. And you look, if you want an extreme example of where owners have kept faith with the manager when the fans wanted them removed, you've got Mikel Arteta at Arsenal. But the flip side of that is, my club, Manchester United, in my opinion, stuck with a manager who was clearly out of his depth for too long, and that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer project set the club backwards. It's only now that Erik ten Hag has come in that we're really seeing the shoots of recovery.
If it wasn't the way that it currently is, would Solskjaer have actually been in that job in the first place?
Because of the revolving door.
Yeah, would have Moyes had more time, would have, or would they have made a more astute appointment at the time than Moyes as a Man United team? So it's for me, it's a ridiculous question to be asking, but they're rock bottom.
They are rock bottom.
And they're lower than a snake's belly at this moment in time.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.